All right, let's dive in. Today we're looking at the future of Italian schools.
Well, that's a big one.
Yeah, it is. And we've got a ton of fascinating material to go through. We've got excerpts from La Scuola del Futuro, some academic papers, and even an interview to unpack.
Sounds like we've got our work cut out for us.
Definitely. But I think the real goal here, at least for me, is to get a sense of where things are headed.
Yeah.
How are these different forces, technology, pedagogy, societal shifts, all coming together to reshape education in Italy?
Yeah, and hopefully extract some key insights and maybe even some potential solutions.
Exactly. Now, one of the first things that really grabbed my attention was this concept of scuola terza generazione, or third generation school.
Ah, yes. I was struck by that too.
It's presented as like this next revolution in teaching and knowledge transfer, building on the transitions, right, from oral traditions to printed text, and now into this whole world of multimedia and digital collaboration.
It's really fascinating, this idea of scuola terza generazione pushing us to rethink how we approach education in a fundamentally digital age. I mean, think about it. The way we access and process information has completely changed.
It really has.
And this isn't just about slapping some new technology onto old methods.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that shift and figuring out how to make the most of it.
Right, exactly. And the book, La Scuola del Futuro, suggests that this shift could lead to some pretty significant benefits.
Definitely.
Not just in terms of cost savings, which are obviously important, but also in terms of personalizing the learning experience, making it more engaging for students.
Yeah, I mean, imagine using interactive maps to bring history lessons to life, or simulations that let students experiment with scientific concepts all in a safe and engaging way.
Right. Some of the sources even talked about robots being used to help students develop language and social skills.
Oh, yeah, I saw that too. That was pretty mind-blowing.
It is pretty wild.
But I think what's important to remember is that technology is just a tool, right? It needs to be used thoughtfully and strategically. It shouldn't be a distraction or a crutch, but rather a way to genuinely enhance the learning process.
I completely agree. And this actually ties in nicely with another big theme that kept popping up: critical thinking.
Oh, absolutely. Crucial in this day and age.
Especially in a world overflowing with information, a lot of which is, well, misinformation. One of the academic papers we read talked about how easily our brains can be tricked by things like cognitive biases and heuristics.
Yeah, making us all vulnerable to fake news, pseudoscience, you name it.
Exactly. And it's not enough to just give students access to information.
Right.
We need to equip them with the tools to really evaluate that information, to distinguish fact from fiction. Some of the sources suggested incorporating things like fake news analysis directly into the curriculum.
Absolutely. And teaching students how to evaluate sources effectively, really think critically about where information is coming from and what might be motivating it.
Like building a toolkit for navigating the information landscape.
Exactly. And emphasizing the scientific method, not just as a set of steps, but as a way of thinking critically, approaching problems, and testing hypotheses.
I love that. So it's not just about acquiring knowledge, but learning how to think for oneself.
Exactly. Fostering that intellectual independence, that ability to sift through information and come to your own informed conclusions.
Which seems more important than ever, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely crucial. And, for all the talk about technology and innovation, one thing that really struck me was the emphasis on the human element in all of this.
I noticed that too. It's not all about algorithms and robots.
No, not at all. One paper even argued that passionate teachers are the most valuable resource in any education system.
You're irreplaceable, aren't they?
They really are. The idea is that a teacher who genuinely loves their subject can make even the most challenging topic engaging and enjoyable.
That makes all the difference. I mean, think back to your own education. I bet there was at least one teacher who really sparked a love of learning in you just through their own enthusiasm.
Oh, absolutely. I can think of a few right now, off the top of my head. That human connection, that ability to inspire and guide, it's something that no algorithm can replicate.
It really isn't. And that leads us to another interesting area that the sources explored: the challenges and opportunities facing teachers in this rapidly evolving landscape, particularly around language learning.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
There was a lot of discussion about content and language integrated learning, or CLIL, essentially teaching subjects like science or history through a foreign language.
Often English, right?
Right.
Hmm?
And Italy has actually been quite a pioneer in implementing CLIL in secondary schools.
It's a great idea in theory.
It is. The idea is that students gain subject knowledge and improve their language skills at the same time, which makes perfect sense in today's globalized world.
Exactly. But there are definitely some challenges in making it work effectively.
For sure. A lot of it comes down to teacher training and ensuring that teachers in non-language subjects have the necessary linguistic competence.
Yeah, that's key. You need teachers who are comfortable and confident teaching in that foreign language. And of course, we can't ignore the other challenges facing the Italian school system.
It's not all sunshine and robots.
No, definitely not. Several sources highlighted concerns about things like bureaucratic structures, inadequate funding, the digital divide, all of which could potentially worsen existing social inequalities.
It's a complex system with complex problems.
Absolutely. And these are serious issues that need to be addressed if Italy wants to create an education system that's truly equitable and effective for all students.
So it feels like a bit of a turning point. Lots of potential, but also some real challenges to tackle.
Definitely. And there's still so much more to explore.
Right. What else awaits us in this deep dive?
Well, we'll be digging deeper into the importance of the humanities, the whole debate around classical languages, and the critical need to nurture creativity in a world increasingly dominated by technology.
I can't wait.
Oh, and we can't forget those thought-provoking insights from psychiatrist Paolo Crepit on stimulating curiosity and critical thinking in today's students.
I'm really looking forward to that. This is already shaping up to be a fascinating discussion.
It is, isn't it? It's amazing how much there is to uncover when you really start to delve into the future of education.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we're just getting started.
You know, it's interesting. We were just talking about these challenges, but one thing that really stood out to me was this almost like a call to champion the humanities.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Amidst all this talk about technology and the future, there's this persistent emphasis on the importance of literature, philosophy, art.
It's almost counterintuitive, isn't it?
It is, kind of. In a world that's increasingly focused on STEM fields, coding, AI, all that, these sources are really making a case for why understanding human nature, exploring different perspectives through the humanities is more important than ever.
One argument that really resonated with me was this idea that literature provides us with what they call knowledge of possibilities.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a powerful concept.
What exactly does that mean?
Well, it's the idea that by immersing ourselves in stories, experiencing the world through different characters and perspectives, we kind of expand our understanding of human experience, emotions, ethical dilemmas, all of that.
It's like a training ground for life almost.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Literature becomes this training ground for navigating the complexities of life. It helps us develop empathy, critical thinking skills, a sense of ethical responsibility.
So it's not just about analyzing literary techniques or memorizing historical facts.
No, not at all.
It's about cultivating a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
Exactly. And the sources connect this back to the broader purpose of education, fostering personal growth and responsible citizenship.
Makes sense.
Speaking of subjects that have been around for centuries, what about this whole debate about classical languages, Latin, Greek?
Yeah, are they still relevant in the modern curriculum? Or are they just relics of the past?
It's a question that sparks a lot of debate.
Yeah, I bet.
Some people argue that they're outdated, that they offer little practical value in today's world. But others maintain that studying these languages provides unique cognitive benefits.
Like what?
Well, particularly in terms of linguistic analysis, understanding different modes of thought. It's like a mental workout.
Right, it's not just about rote memorization anymore.
No, exactly. There's a real push to move beyond that, to tap into the potential of the classics to enhance critical thinking.
One of the sources gave an example of how comparing the grammar and syntax of Latin to modern languages can actually help students understand the evolution of language and thought.
Oh, that's interesting.
I thought that was really fascinating.
It is. It's about using these ancient languages as tools to better understand our own ways of thinking and communicating.
So it's not just about the past.
Right. It's about using that historical lens to gain insights into the present and the future.
I like that.
So yeah, there's a lot of potential there, but it's all about finding the right approach,
Definitely. But even with all this talk of innovation and reform, we need to be realistic about the challenges facing Italian schools right now.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We talked about funding issues, the digital divide, but were there other concerns that came up in these sources?
One thing that kept coming up was this tension between the need for centralized systemic change and the importance of empowering individual schools and teachers to innovate.
That's a tough balance to strike.
It is. Some argue that Italy's bureaucratic structure can stifle creativity, make it difficult to implement new ideas effectively.
Right. Too much red tape.
Yeah, exactly. But others emphasize the need for clear national guidelines, standards to ensure quality and equity across the entire system.
So finding that right balance between top-down guidance and bottom-up innovation is crucial.
Absolutely. And that leads to another challenge that was highlighted, the need for greater collaboration between schools and other cultural institutions like libraries, museums, theaters.
Yeah, I saw that mentioned.
The idea is that schools shouldn't exist in isolation. They should be integrated into the wider community, creating a richer learning environment.
I like that. Bringing learning outside the classroom walls, tapping into those resources and expertise in the community.
Exactly. It could create some amazing opportunities.
It really could. And it speaks to this larger idea that education isn't solely the responsibility of schools and teachers.
Right. It's a shared responsibility, families, communities, society as a whole.
So it sounds like we've explored a lot of complex issues here. The value of the humanities, the debate around classical languages, the systemic challenges facing Italian schools.
We've covered a lot of ground.
Where do we go from here?
Well, in the final part of our deep dive, we're going to shift our focus to nurturing creativity in the digital age.
Oh, that's a big one.
It is. And we'll delve into some fascinating insights from psychiatrist Paolo Crippett's interview. He talks about the challenges of navigating the digital landscape, how to stimulate curiosity and critical thinking in today's students. It's really quite insightful.
I'm really interested to hear more about that.
Yeah, it's a great way to round out our exploration of the future of Italian schools.
Welcome back for the final part of our deep dive.
The home stretch.
It really is. And we've covered so much already, from the role of technology to the enduring power of those humanities. But as we wrap things up, I want to touch on something that feels super relevant today. Nurturing creativity.
It's funny, so many sources really emphasize that.
Yeah.
In a world where AI is becoming more and more sophisticated, human creativity is what sets us apart. It's what allows us to innovate, solve problems in ways that machines just can't.
Right. Makes you wonder if fostering creativity becomes even more vital.
Exactly.
In a future where AI is handling all the routine stuff, did the sources offer any concrete ideas about how to cultivate that spark in students?
One book, La vita creativa del cervello, goes deep into the whole neurology of creativity.
Yeah.
And it argues that creativity isn't some mystical gift, It's a skill, something you can develop through practice and the right kind of stimulation.
So not just born with it. Anyone can learn to think outside the box.
That's what they're saying. And they had some cool strategies for fostering that kind of thinking. One that I liked was this idea of bending, breaking, and blending existing ideas to create new ones.
Ooh, I like the sound of that.
Right.
Sounds like a mental workout.
It is, kind of. So imagine you take something familiar, like a bicycle.
Okay.
You could bend it by changing the shape, the size, maybe make it foldable, add extra wheels. You could break it down into its parts, wheels, pedals, frame, and reimagine them, Maybe make a new kind of exercise machine or a piece of art. Or you could blend it with another concept like a helicopter and think flying bicycle, a new way to get around.
So it's taking what we know and pushing the boundaries.
Yeah. Challenging assumptions, looking for those unexpected connections, and not being afraid to experiment.
Love that. Now, you mentioned that interview with psychiatrist Paolo Crippett.
Oh, yeah. He has some really interesting thoughts about this.
Right, about nurturing this kind of mindset, especially in the digital age.
His big point is that while the internet's amazing for learning, it also presents some unique challenges when it comes to fostering genuine curiosity and critical thinking.
Like what?
Well, he's concerned that social media, especially, creates these echo chambers
Yeah.
where young people are constantly bombarded with information that just reinforces their existing beliefs and biases.
Right, they're stuck in a filter bubble, missing out on diverse perspectives.
Exactly. And he says educators really need to help students break out of those bubbles, teaching them to evaluate information critically, spot bias, engage with different viewpoints.
Makes sense.
He even suggested that schools should have specific lessons on using search engines effectively.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Not just how to use Google, but how to craft those searches that go beyond the surface.
Right, like turning them into digital detectives.
Yeah.
Sifting through information, evaluating sources.
Exactly. And Krepik goes even further. He says we need to cultivate intellectual autonomy in young people. He worries that too much reliance on tech leads to this passive consumption, where students just absorb whatever's in front of them without questioning it.
Right, like don't just be a sponge, be a filter.
Yes. He's all about encouraging students to challenge assumptions, develop their own opinions, engage in debate, respectfully, of course.
So it's not just acquiring knowledge.
Nope.
It's about learning to think for oneself, form those informed opinions.
Exactly. That kind of intellectual independence is crucial in a world where information is coming at us from all directions.
It really is. Well, as we wrap up this deep dive, it feels like we've only scratched the surface.
There's always more to explore.
Always. But I think one takeaway is clear. The future of Italian schools isn't just about programs or technology. It's about fostering a culture of learning that values curiosity, critical thinking, creativity, and human connection.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And recognizing that education is an investment in the future, not just an expense.
It's about empowering those young minds to navigate this crazy, complex world we live in.
Well said. This has been a fascinating journey.
It really has.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it sparks some new ideas about the future of education. Until next time, keep those minds curious.